I believe Kamala Harris ran a very good campaign. Uh, the flaws in her campaign were, number one, she never addressed immigration at the level that the American people wanted it addressed. She kept saying it was Donald Trump's fault. He called his friends in Congress and killed the bill. He wants to run on a problem instead of solve a problem. Well, when you say that, that tells the voter, if we vote for you again, he's going to do the same thing. So we may as well put him in and get it taken care of. Immigration was at the top of the list for the vast majority of Americans, and she did not give a good enough response. And when she was on Brett Baier and Anderson Cooper, she was called out for the president, Biden, opening the borders when he got in office, day one, killing all of Donald Trump's executive orders and allowing the flood of immigrants in. And the argument has been that they wanted all this influx of immigrants and put them in the swing states. Elon Musk encouraged everybody in his interview with Joe Rogan to go to the website of the government. It tells you how many immigrants were let in. Elon Musk says it's a roughly 21 million. They put 700,000 per swing state, and they were fast tracking them to. Kamala stated very clearly in her Roland Martin interview and in her Black Journalists in Pennsylvania interview that there's nothing specifically she's doing for Black people. That means you had to benefit from the policy she had for all Americans, which was $100,000 for a small business, first-time small business owner, $50,000 for a first-time home buyer, $6,000 for new parents. That means you have to meet a criteria. You're going to have your credit in order. You're going to have the education, the business plan. There's some prereqs you're going to have to meet. That means probably less than 5% of blacks would be able to benefit from those policies that she was emphasizing. And then, of course, she focused on abortions. So that would impact young black females who wanted abortions. But that leaves out 95% of blacks. So her policies did not benefit black people, and yet black people ran and voted for her. Black women voted 91% for Kamala Harris, and black men voted 77%. So since she stated out of her own mouth she's not doing anything specific for black people, and her policies and what she was going to focus on would only benefit 5% or less of black people, that means black people voted for Kamala Harris because they believed she's black. They believe she went to an HBCU and she pledged an AKA sorority. They picked a president based on superficial reasons and nothing that benefited them. Having immigrants in the country, 20 million, 700,000 per swing state, meant the Democrats no longer needed the black vote in the next election. That means the next election, you can't bring anything to the table because they don't need you. They've replaced the black vote with the immigrants. They also replaced jobs that could have potentially gone to blacks with immigrants. When is the last time you walked into any business and saw black people working? Usually when you're in high school, you get a job, after school job. Just look around when you go through your daily shopping, going to get food, going to get groceries, going to hair salon, nail salon, department stores, gas station, everywhere you go. Count the number of blacks you see. So under Kamala, you would have gotten no black benefits at all. Less than 5% would have benefited from the first time homeowners, the small business, and the abortion rights, and the first time parents. But allowing the immigrants in would have replaced you in this country in terms of votes and in terms of jobs and education. And worse, the Democrat agenda, she's not in charge. It's the Democrats behind her that push the agenda that's already in place. The LGBTQ, teaching our kids to be comfortable questioning their sexuality, allowing men to play women's sports, that whole agenda, that is harmful to our black children. So if you voted for Kamala, you voted against black people. Tampon Tim, as nice and jovial as he appeared to be, was not the best look. She decreased her chances drastically having Tampon Tim as her VP pick. Him allowing tampons to be in boys' bathrooms was not going to go over with the majority of the country. And when you call yourself a knucklehead with the whole world watching, no one's going to have faith in your abilities to be a vice president. What is Donald Trump going to do for black people? There's no black agenda that was placed in his hands or in the hands of Kamala Harris. So what did you ask him to do? What did black people put together to ask the presidential candidates to get done in order to get their votes? I've been talking about a black agenda for years, and no one has stepped up to put one together. Barack Obama, Michelle, and Eric Holder are some of the brightest minds with inside political information. Barack could have put together a black agenda knowing what the needs are in the black community since he was a community organizer. He could have passed that through Eric Holder. They could have gotten that to young activists in their 30s, had them spread that around to universities and college campuses. And then we, as a collective group, block our votes, one black vote. We ask the richest to put in 10 million, those that are in the 1% to put in $1 million, and everybody else put in what they can. And we have a war chest of bare minimum 100 million. And then we have our agenda. We have the black vote block, and we have 100 million that we're going to give to the candidate that says they will get the most done on our black agenda list. That's what should have happened, but it didn't happen. So there's nothing that's going to be sitting in the president's inbox that addresses what black people need. And as I stated with Obama, a president cannot write law, sign law, and pass law. And it is your responsibility as a group to let the president know what it is that you want done, and then come to the table bargaining for that. Getting 20 million immigrants out of the United States frees up space for blacks to get jobs and education that would have been going to the immigrants. And it allows blacks to still have some voting power in the next election because we will not be flooded with immigrants. He's also changing the education system, which will get all of the gay teachings out of the schools. So when you send your son to school, he will come back a boy and not a girl. You send your daughter, she comes back a girl and not a boy. And he's going to get the men out of these males posing as females out of sports. There's actually more benefit to black people with a Trump presidency than with a Democrat presidency, because the Democrats are a system that's been in place for hundreds of years, and they don't want to change anything. They pander to the black vote just to keep power. Trump is a CEO and a businessman. The buck stops with him. He will make the decisions. That's why it was very dumb of the black journalists in Chicago to question him about past things instead of working with him, because he's going to be the most powerful man in the world, January 20th, 2025. So you want to work with the president, not against him. Closing the border and getting 22 million immigrants off U.S. soil frees up jobs for millions of blacks. It creates housing, education, many opportunities for millions of blacks. And most importantly, it reduces the crime rate. If you don't have a job, if you don't have housing, if you don't have resources, it increases the chances of you going out and committing crimes, which increases your chance of going to the cemetery or going to prison. So voting for Donald Trump was actually voting for black people. Donald Trump is actually going to do more for black people than any Democrat would have done, because getting the immigrants out benefits blacks enormously on every level. And getting the gay teachings out of the school saves our young black children. That's way more than we would have gotten with a Democrat president. So if you voted for Kamala, you voted against black people. And if you voted for Trump, you voted for black people. You voted for this country. You voted to make America great again.